Hi friend! Thank you for joining us today. I'm Gail and
Rico.
And we are Stitchity Doodle. Thank you for joining us. In today's video, we have some autumnal makes to share with you. If you like amigurumi or you're interested in amigurumi or you just like seeing cute stuff, stick around because we have some cuties to share with you today. My first finished project comes from this book up here, which is My Crochet Animals by Isabelle Kessedjian. And I chose to do the bear. And here's how he turned out. I'm calling him my autumn bear because of the yarn choices that I made for him. Look at him. Doesn't he scream autumn? He's got his beanie, his cute little cozy sweater. I mean, I know the shorts doesn't scream cozy, but I mean the color scheme, autumn, right? This book is written in UK terminology, and I will say that I have the digital version, which is why I'm not showing you the physical book. But in the digital version, which I'm sure is going to be similar to the physical book, the body instructions are located in one section of the book. And each animal pattern throughout the book will reference that body pattern. So whenever you go to the bear, for instance, it'll tell you, go make the body on page so-and-so. So you have to go all the way back to the front of the book, look for the body pattern and work it from there, which can be a little off-putting for some, myself included. And then also, not only that, but when it's talking about like maybe working up the snout, or what do they call this? Snout? Muzzle? This portion here. Whenever you're working parts like these, it'll also reference that portion of the book. So it'll say something like work rows 1 through 4 of the head, and then it'll continue on in the regular portion of the bear, continuing on with the rest of the muzzle. So it's a little back and forth in the book, which can be annoying. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Now the pattern does use carded wool for the nose, which is the loose wool that people use for wool felting with the felting needle, but I opted to use just felt fabric instead, and then I stitched it on. And I love the way that it looked. The reason why I didn't use carded wool is because, for one, I do have some, but I don't have it in the color that I wanted for his nose. Secondly, I'm not comfortable needle felting wool onto my amigurumi just yet. I mean, I've tried it on occasion with not much success, so. For his sweater, the pattern does have you add some additional fasteners. Here, you can either add something or make extra stitches to close it off, but I ran out of steam and I'm happy with just this tie up here, which is part of the pattern as well. Now, I love the variegated yarn that I used for his sweater and his beanie, and I wish that I could tell you what yarn it is. It's got a little bit of a sheen, so I'm thinking something like maybe Karen's Simply Soft, I think, has a little bit of a sheen. So it might be something like that. But I did find a similar color type of scheme yarn in my stash as a close alternative, I guess. And it is Hobby Lobby's I Love This Yarn print in the colorway Cobblestone Ivy. I think it's it's not an exact, and I'm pretty sure the striping will work out differently, but it has got similar colors within it. So I wish I could tell you what this original yarn is, because I wouldn't mind getting another skein of it, which is a bummer, but oh well. Now all the clothes are removable, which I love, because then whoever receives this in the end can play dress up dolls. So I love that. I did try something new. So Miko makes amigurumi from time to time. In a great blue moon, every now and then she might produce an amigurumi.
Okay.
And when I hold and I touch her amigurumi, it's super soft and it's squishy, like really nice and squishy. And I'm like, how come your amigurumi is so soft and squishy? And mind you, she's using the same kind of yarn that I'm using, which is an acrylic. I give her acrylic yarn, but she does use a larger hook, and I give her that hook for a reason, and it's so that she can see her stitches and she can make mistakes and see them and learn from them. But also I wanted her to start off big and then work her way smaller as she progresses in her journey, in her amigurumi journey. So anyways, her amigurumi always turns out squishy, and I'm like, what are you doing? So then I was like, I want to make my stuff soft and squishy. So I thought, okay, maybe it's my tension, because I have super tight tension, and I do use a smaller hook, and I do stuff my amigurumi firmly. She doesn't stuff it firmly, and that's a choice thing, I think. Is it by choice? Yeah, so she doesn't stuff hers firmly. So I experimented, and so with this particular amigurumi, I did not use my typical hook choice that I usually use for this kind of yarn. So usually I would use, maybe depending on the thickness of the yarn, this is 4-weight acrylic yarn, and usually if it's on the thinner side, I will use an E 3.5 millimeter hook. If it's on a larger size like Premier Basics, or even sometimes Hobby Lobby's I Love This Yarn, I'll use a F 3.75 millimeter hook. But for this one, I believe I use the G or the 7 hook, a 4 millimeter or 4.5 millimeter hook, because I'm experimenting to see if I can get my amigurumi to be soft and squishy. And then when I stuffed him, I didn't quite stuff him as firmly. I was like, it's firm enough where it's holding its shape. It's not like it's got room. I'll stuff it enough where it's filling in the crevice or the cavity, but not so much where I'm firmly stuffing it. And he is softer. He's much softer than my usual amigurumi, which is nice, but it's not Miko soft. And I'm like, what? He looks good. He's pretty smooth, I think. There's no lumps and bumps, which is nice, but I'm going for soft and squishy. I mean, I got closer to soft and squishy. And I do have, if you notice, he's much bigger holes because I went up a hook size, but not Miko soft, which I'm a little bummed, but I am happy that he is soft and squishier than my current amigurumi style. So for a while, I've been trying new amigurumis with this approach in mind, but I am happy with the way that he came out. I love the size, I love the look, I love the extra soft, semi-soft squishiness. Now, over time, I'm not sure how it's going to be, because I do know that amigurumists do say to stuff firmly, because over time, the stuffing does kind of collapse over time and it does get softer. So we'll see how he ends up being over time. He might end up being one of those raggedy dolls that look like they're barely stuffed and they look like they need a little more meat in their bodies. So we'll see. You know what I'm talking about. Those kids, they're dragging around their stuffed animals and they look really loved and so cute and scruffy looking, you know? Very cute, very cute. My next finished object is Louis, and he comes from this book, Lulu's Crochet Dolls by Sandra Lulu Compotine. And she is one of my favorite crochet doll pattern designers. I've made some of her other dolls before. I've bought some of her doll patterns on Etsy and I've made them and I love them. So when she came out with this book, I got super excited. I didn't get it right away because, you know, budget constraints and things, but I eventually got it and I'm super excited to work out of it. Now my first doll is Louis here, and he's from the Autumn doll collection. Now her book is separated into the 4 seasons. She's got winter, spring, summer, and fall, or autumn I think she calls it, not fall, autumn. I super love the way that he came out. I love my color choices, which of course is very similar and not too far away from the original. But I love his cute bear beanie and his cute denim overall. Now this is Lion Brand's jeans yarn, and I super love using this yarn for anything denim. They come in different colors. There's like a lighter one, a medium one, and this is the dark wash. And I super love the way that they always come out, and I'm so sad that I'm running out of my stash. So this is close to the last of it, and I love the way that it looks. Now, something interesting that I noticed about Lulu Compotine's Etsy patterns versus her book patterns, they almost appear as if they're written by two different designers. And let me explain. The patterns in the book uses the chain 2 method, as opposed to her Etsy patterns uses the magic circle, which is not a big deal. It was just something that I noticed, and I was like, I wonder why that is. I just thought it was curious. And then on top of that, her book pattern is written in UK terms, but her Etsy patterns are written in US terms. Again, I was like, I wonder why that is. I mean, maybe to appeal to a larger market, I'm not sure, but the inconsistency kind of threw me off, not in a bad sense. It was just kind of like, that's curious, you know? Also, another thing, in the book, she uses different terminology, such as in her Etsy pattern, she uses the more short and concise terms of increase and decrease, with an abbreviation of INC for increase and DEC for decrease, which is my personal preference whenever writing or reading patterns, because it's quick, it's short, and it's to the point. However, in the book, she uses terminology such as 2DC in the next stitch, which translates to an increase. And then for a decrease, she uses DC2 tog, which is double crochet 2 together. And the reason why I like INC and DEC is because it's less reading, it's less verbiage. I can look at it real quick and just know what I need to do. But when I read 2DC in the next stitch or DC2 tog, it's just so much that I have to read through just to get to the point. I can pretty much predict what's gonna happen next because I've been doing amigurumi patterns for a while now, and you can, for the most part, kind of anticipate what's going to come next. But as far as reading and just, I'm a very visual person, so as soon as I see something, it's just I look and then I go. I look and I go. But when they have this extended verbiage, it's kind of like, it slows me down. It's not as quick as look. I'm looking a little bit longer, making sure that I'm getting it right, and then I go. So it was just something that I prefer her Etsy patterns for that reason, because it's quick, it's short, it's concise, and I have no questions about what I'm reading. Now, if you encounter an abbreviation that you're unfamiliar with in the book, just go to her abbreviations chart that she has towards the beginning of her book, and she'll have it listed there, because there was something in there that I was unfamiliar with, and I had to go look it up, and it was there, so no problem. Now, I did modify the placement of the seam for the body. It starts off being in the front and then it transitions to the side. Now, I've done two different ways. I've done it where my seam is placed in the back, and I've done it where I've placed it on the side. And that is irregardless of what the pattern says. The pattern will tell me whatever, but I will do my own thing because I have my own personal preferences. So ideally, I like it on the back. However, there are times where I've done it on the side if I feel like the arms or the limbs are wide enough to cover up the seam. Then I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll just put it on the side because it's going to be hidden in the best way. So I've done it both ways. But just note that she does start off with the seam in the front, which I thought was odd, but then she does transition it to the side, which is fine, not a big deal. But I have my own personal preference, so I do my own thing as far as that's concerned. Now, the pattern is pretty much straightforward. I did not find any errors and easy to follow, and I love the way that it came out, as I knew I was going to, because I love Lulu Compotine's patterns. And look at his face and his freckles. So because I gave him a darker skin tone, it's kind of hard to see his freckles, which I'm a little bummed about. But I mean, if you look really close, you can tell it's there. But nevertheless, it's there. I super love him. He's so cute. The pattern in the book also does include a squirrel, a satchel, and a kite, which I did not do, but I would love to give him a satchel. I think he looks super cute. And I've been wanting to make more accessories for my amigurumi dolls, because then little ones can play. They can play dress up, and then they can pretend play with all the different accessories. It's just that at the time I ran out of steam. I only wanted to make the doll and I was done. But ideally, yes, before gifting, I would love to make more accessories for the doll before gifting. All the doll clothes are removable. The beanie, the scarf, or the cowl you could pull over his body. It might need to stretch out a little bit. The overalls are removable, and his shoes. Not his socks though. His socks are kind of built into his body. Oh, and his sleeves, that is not removable. My next finished object is Leonie. I think that's how you pronounce it. And she comes from the same book as Louis. And she is the girl doll from the autumn section. And here she is. So super cute. I love the color combinations that are included in here. I think I followed Sandra's suggestions as far as colors, and I love the way that it came out. And this time around, I did have enough steam. I made her a satchel, a crossbody bag, whatever you call it. I made her a bag. She's got an accessory. Now for this pattern, there are some things I will be sharing with you. First of all, her dress. In round 4 of her dress, this section between transitioning between the top and the bottom, I would suggest that you work round 4 into the front loop only in order to get this look, this separation between the top and the bottom. It's an abrupt change and it looks closer to the pattern designer's pictures. If you were to work it, which I did at first, I worked it into just both loops. It's a smoother transition and it did not look like the pattern pictures. And I was like, I believe this row should be done in the front loops only. And when I did it, yes, it has that definition between the top and the bottom, and it looks much closer to the pattern pictures. Now, also for the dress, for this bottom portion where, it flares out, the flowy part of the dress, the pattern specifies 1 stitch. However, when I look at the stitch in the photos, it is definitely not the correct stitch. It's actually a taller stitch. Now, which taller stitch you choose is up to you. I think as a maker, you have some creative freedom in making modifications. I went with the next taller stitch and I'm happy with the way that it came out, and it looks similar to the pictures. So just something to be aware of. Also, for the sandals, something that I don't really talk about much is whenever you're working up crochet doll clothes, it's always best to start your pattern and then occasionally try it onto your doll for size and fit, and then continue on a little bit and then try it on for fit. So that goes for all doll clothing patterns, not just Lulu Compotine, and not just for dresses or for scarves or anything. Like anything that you're going to have to put onto something and you want a correct fit, always test it out for sizing intermittently throughout the process so that you can make appropriate adjustments. Because the last thing that you want to do is to finish a garment like this and then come to find out it doesn't fit at all. It's too big or it's too small, and then you have to rip it out and start all over again. So whenever you're working any kind of clothing article for dolls, always make sure that you're testing it out throughout the process. Piggybacking on that idea, patterns can tell you at stitch so-and-so, start the strap. But for me, I always just figure out where exactly is the placement that I want it, and then I will adjust the placement accordingly. So similar concept, you want to do placement to your ideal standards. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, babe?
Yeah, I think so.
Now for the leaves for her little crown thingy here, I'm not sure what to call it, her headdress, I guess. The instructions and the chart doesn't necessarily match. The last stitch of the leaf in the pattern does not match the last stitch in the chart before the slip stitch. So for me, as far as symmetry, I went with the chart. So the last stitch of the round before the slip stitch for closing should be the exact same stitch as your first stitch in the round. Hopefully that helps. And if you're familiar with chart reading, you should be able to tell what the stitch is, you can tell. But even after all that said and done, I didn't like the way that my leaf was coming out, so I modified the pattern slightly, and this is the way that it turned out, and I liked it much better. For some reason, I don't know, my leaves weren't turning out. It was looking kind of funky. So I modified it slightly, but with the same shape in mind, and then it came out decent enough. I kept it this way. And then for her satchel here, instead of using these type of French knots or bullion knots, sometimes she has you fasten things off using this, which was the same here, but instead I wanted to add a little bit of different media to this whole complete doll, and I chose a button. It's super fun. You can put a coin in here or whatever, and I love the way that it turned out. Now this doll also includes her own accessories, which is a mushroom and a pattern, and again, I did not make either of those, but I did give her her satchel. So I'm happy about that, but maybe hopefully later on I can include the other accessories, because I really do love the idea of including other things so that little hands have extra things to play with. I super love the way that she came out. These dolls, I did not do my modification where I played with tension or stuffing. My dolls, I actually want to keep them nice and firm and less squishy. I don't know why that is, but I just do. I don't know. I don't want them flattening over time or anything like that. Maybe that's why I have no idea. I just do. My next finished object is this cute little mini pumpkin girl, and I'm sure those of you who are not new to this channel will know exactly who the pattern designer is, and she is by Irina Moilova of Crochet Confetti. And this here is my shelf of Crochet Confetti dolls. Now this is one of her not freebie mini patterns, but it is a paid for Etsy pattern, and they are different. Now her freebie patterns, the arms tend to look like penguin fins or arms, if you will. They look like a little paddle kind of shape, and then the freebie ones just look like the normal arms and legs that you see in amigurumi dolls. They're pretty much just straight tubes. But her paid for patterns usually include much more intricate designs in the pattern, such as hair. And if you notice, the freebie ones might have a little tuft of hair at the top, but not anything that's defined, like definitive hair, such as this one. Now, both of them usually have like some kind of neck wear, like a scarf or something like that. The dresses or clothing of the paid for patterns are much more involved as opposed to the freebie patterns. The freebie patterns are much simpler, I would say. And then the body shape is more curvy, whereas these guys, they're a little more simplistic, and like me, I'm an H shape. But I super love the way that she came out. I started making these paid for patterns, and for some reason, I got obsessed. I mean, obsessed. I don't know what went on, but something hit me and I got a bug, and I started purchasing more of these little mini patterns. I had more in my stash. I made those, but I needed more. I was like, I gotta have them all. So I went on Etsy, I bought some more and I made some more. I'll be sharing them all with you, believe you me. I love each and every one of them. And of course, they're gonna be added to my collection here. I love the way that it's turning out. That shelf is looking a little loaded. Maybe I might have to extend it up to the upper shelf, we'll see. I love, love, love not only her mini freebie patterns, but also her paid for patterns. Now for this pattern, the pumpkin portion of her dress, the designer actually has you surface crochet. And if you know me, I do not like surface crochet. So in order to avoid that, at the end of the body section, towards the neck part, I did one of the rows in back loop only. That way, it left the front loops available so that I can attach the dress and work my pumpkin dress from there. And I know you advanced amigurumi makers will know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe the beginners won't know what I'm talking about. Do you understand what I'm talking about when I say that, babe?
When you say what?
Yeah, so the beginner ones will not understand, but you makers out there who have been doing this a while, you'll understand. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Do they?
Yes, oh yeah. You'll get there, baby. You will get there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so let's talk curly hair. Now I love, love, love this hairdo that she's got going on. It's textured. It's curly-ish, but not really curly. I would call it wavy. And in order to get this texture, I did a little something different that I haven't tried before, but I've seen it. I've seen some people who make curly hair by wrapping yarn around a dowel, and then some will douse it in hot water, I think, and then let it soak for a while, and then let it dry, and then unravel it, and it becomes like Shirley Temple ringlets, you know. So it's got a spiral type of shape. However, I wanted a slightly different texture, so what I did was I crocheted single crochets in a round. You can either do it in a sphere or in a tube, but whichever way, I didn't want to do back and forth, so I didn't do it in rows. I did it in a round. I personally did a tube. What I did was, after I thought I did enough yarn for my hair, I cut it off, and then I soaked the fabric, made sure that it was soaked through and through with just regular tap water. Not hot water, just regular tap. I made sure that it was soaked through. I kind of squeezed it to make sure that the water's penetrating through to the core of the yarn. And then I dabbed it dry by placing it in between layers of towel, and I pressed down on it and I patted it down the best that I could, and then I ran it under a fan to help it dry quicker. And then once it's thoroughly dried, I just frogged it back, and it gave a yarn texture that was slightly different. It wasn't curly Q like Shirley Temple's hair. It was more like a S shape going back and forth, like a loopy loop-de-loop type of shape. And I loved that texture over the ringlet look. And that's what I did for this hair, and I could easily stretch it out to how tight or loose that I wanted her hair texture to be. And I super love the way that it came out. And then for her hair, because I wanted her hair to have a little pop, I went with a contrasting color. And if you think about the color wheel, which is red, yellow, and blue, the direct opposite of orange would be blue. So I went with this color, and I super love the way that it came out. I also love the bead detailing on her pumpkin. It was just an added extra oomph, which I love about crochet confetti. Not just crochet confetti, there are some other patterns that used beading. I don't use beading a whole lot in my amigurumi, but when I do, I'm very impressed. I super love the way that they turn out. It looks like you spent a whole lot of time, which it is time consuming. But I think the return on investment on it, I think is really, really good, because it gives that extra rich look to it. and it makes it unique, I think. Makes it look rich. Yeah, so I absolutely love the way that she turned out. Super, super cute. My next finished object is a little mini pumpkin boy. I did a girl, now this is a boy. This pattern is by Sandra Lulu Compotine. Different pattern designers. I love, love, love that you can look at these different dolls and know exactly who the pattern designer is just by the style of it. Like when I see this, I know exactly it's Lulu Compotine, and I look at the other mini pumpkin girl doll and I know instantaneously it's Crochet Confetti. So I love that their style comes through in the patterns and it's just distinctive. I love it. This pattern, you can use any of her Tutti Frutti patterns in her Etsy shop. And she's got a plethora of them that you can choose from. She's got fruit themes and flora themes. And you just use any one of those patterns and then head on over to her Instagram account. And in there, you'll be able to find some freebie modifications, which I did to follow her pumpkin hat here. So the body is just using any one of her Tutti Frutti body patterns, and then this hat is followed by her Instagram account, freebie pattern modification. And I super love the way that it came out. Again, I love the texture of the hat. It's very similar to the Crochet Confetti, but different. I don't know, it matches Lulu Compotine's doll here. And I love the color scheme that I used. This one, I went with a more traditional autumn palette. They're more muted colors, where as opposed to the Crochet Confetti, I used a little more bright, cheerful colors for the autumn doll, pumpkin doll. Very straightforward, easy pattern, quick make, and the modification is free. As long as you have one of her Tutti Frutti patterns, you can head on over to her Instagram account and make all those modifications. One more thing I want to say about him, I love the way that his blush on his nose came out. He looks like he's been frostbitten outside. Like he's been outside for a little too long and he's got a little bit of a cold. And I love it. Very cute. My next pattern, I followed a tutorial by MJ Off the Hook here on YouTube, and I made a checkered pumpkin a few years back for our home decor, and I wanted to add to it this year. So when MJ Off the Hook came out with this pattern, I got super excited and I followed her acorn pattern. Now I made these two and I love the colors that I chose. I made these two in a smaller size, and then I wanted to make a larger one, which I started off to. However, this twine or jute here, I wanted to use a bigger, fatter one, which I didn't have in my stash. So I have to go to the store and buy one. That might be a while. But yeah, I wanted a fatter one for this top, and then I'm gonna stick another cinnamon stick on the top. This pattern was super easy, super fun, quick make. I love the color schemes. I love that you can play with the sizes depending on how many strands of yarn you put together, even different weights of yarn. You could use plush yarn if you wanted. But what I love about this pattern is the combination of media here. You've got the yarn texture contrasting against the natural jute or twine here, and then the cinnamon stick. And bonus, the cinnamon stick smells divine. I really, really love cinnamon sticks. I have some scented pine cones and some scented cinnamon sticks during the holiday season that I have around the house, and I love sniffing them. They're just so lovely. So I have these two to add to the home decor this year. This one I still need to finish off, but I super love the three colors that I chose. Very, very pretty, very autumnal. and warm and cozy vibes. Thank you for watching today's video and joining us today. Thank you, Miko, for joining us. She's been MIA for a while, but it's always nice to have her on the channel, isn't it? And then our next video is going to be on winter themed / Christmas themed makes. So I hope you will join us for that, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Aww,
What?
I just realized I didn't give her any freckles. I'm going to Sharpie those on.